there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Female Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Krista Gurka, and I have another guest today. It's not often, Cory, that we actually have male guests on the show because I work with mostly female, well, all female entrepreneurs. So I welcome you to the Female Empowered Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I just did a yin yoga teacher training in Bali, and there were 27 participants in the group and 26 were female, and I was the one male. And also yin yoga is like about the feminine energy in the yin and the yang. So I feel
You're right at home.
Yeah, I feel right at home, and thank you for having me. I really
No,
appreciate
I'm super excited. And I really do believe in the whole serendipity of things in life. And so your team had reached out to me via DM on Instagram a while ago. And when I was talking to Michael, I was like, no, I know you guys. I refer people to your website all the time. And he was like, really? And you guys kind of happen to be in my backyard. And so I'm so excited to chat with you. For those of you that are like, well, what does Cory do? I don't understand what he actually does. So Cory is an attorney, and he's also the author of the Yoga Law Book, which sounds a little like an oxymoron, but
yeah,
maybe, right?
it's just yeah.
Yeah, but what he owns a firm that's called Conscious Counsel, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit about how that came to fruition, what his journey was. But what we're going to really talk about today is, even though all of us are in this industry mostly for the love of movement and health and healing and wellness, it's also really important to protect ourselves, protect our team, protect our business. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Make it demystify that a little bit, as we shall say. So Cory, why don't you introduce yourself, give us a little bit about your background, and tell us a little bit about Conscious Counsel.
Thanks, Krista, and hi everybody. Hi again. So my name is Cory. I am an attorney, and I've been an attorney for 9 years. And 7 of those years, I've run my own business, which is called Conscious Counsel. We practice what we call heart leading law, because it was really missing in the space. Like, I get how much lawyers suck and how annoying they are and how mega expensive they are and how unfriendly and intimidating the whole process seems. And, I haven't had a chance to meet everyone who's listening, but like, I'm a pretty relaxed dude. Like, I wear sandals. I'm chilling. I travel the world and work online at the same time. And the reason why this law practice started was, firstly, I had worked for a couple of other law firms in my career, my legal career, and I was just completely miserable. And it's like, it's so interesting, this whole process of becoming an attorney, because you have to study really, really hard during undergraduate university to get great marks. Then there's like a test that you have to write, and you study for that. And then you go to law school, and it's super competitive. And then you want to get good grades. Then if you get good grades, you can get a good job. But then, like, I did all the things. I'm, the rat on the hamster wheel, whatever. I guess there'd be a hamster on a hamster wheel. I'm doing all the things. It's like, finally you get there, and I'm like, what? This sucks. Like,
It sucks.
really, I have to work 80 hours a week and not be able to play sports and not chill with my friends and not take trips and not look at the sunset and sacrifice going to yoga classes for this. Like, this is what I work so hard for. And so I was pretty disillusioned. I was ready to quit. And then one of my mentors was like, Cory, you're a super intelligent guy, which, thank you. It was very nice of him to say that. But because I don't know if other entrepreneurs feel this, but at least in the legal sense, there's a point where you're like, I'm not ready. Like, I don't think that I'm good enough on my own as a lawyer. And he's like, you've worked at different firms, you've helped a lot of clients, like, you're ready. Sometimes you just need someone else to tell you that you're ready. So he told me I'm ready. And then what he said to me was, he's just like, Cory, design a law firm. Design your dream law firm. Design your role only in your dream. Like, what is the best case scenario, best version for all the things that you want? So I was like, firstly, I'm only working with epic people. Secondly, I'm only working with heart leading entrepreneurs. And thirdly, I'm going to be traveling the entire time. And boom, like, mic drop, no one's stopping me. And that was 7 years ago. I had 0 clients. I bought a one-way ticket to Denmark. And now I'm still on that same trip, currently in South Florida. And over the course of that time, I've helped over 1,100 small business owners and most of them boutique fitness studio owners. And we've won a whole bunch of awards, and we've got 365 five-star reviews. And I love what I do, and I get to chat to awesome people like Krista. So that's a little bit about my story and how all of it started. And the last piece to add, and I didn't mention this, is that when I was working at these law firms, I was a group fitness trainer. I was working at Equinox and at other gyms, and I was a yoga teacher, and I recently became a Pilates teacher. So for me, it's just like a natural fit, like the same way I can just connect so well with the people who I work with. And I think that if you can connect and love the people you work with, everything's a lot easier. And also just understanding them and their businesses, and like when I travel the world, I will always go randomly. Like I'll never go to the same gym or studio twice, but like I'll always visit a new studio, a new gym, and just like I understand how it works. I read all the contracts. So it's sort of like the nerdy side of me that loves doing this. And that's a little bit about me.
I think it's great. And I think you're a perfect example of someone creating, my dog's gonna start barking, sorry, creating a business around their life. Like,
Yeah.
so many people say, well, no, this is the role everyone has to play. And by the way, PT, physical therapy school, is similar to law school. Like you do the same thing. You got to get good grades. You got to take the GRE. You got to get into a good school. You got to keep getting good grades. And then you get out and you're like, what the F, dude? Like, I now have $200,000 worth of debt and I'm making like, crap. So I get it. But so many people are like, no, I have to do this. But why? Like you said, I want to travel the world. So I want to create a business that funds that type of lifestyle and I'll be able to do it. And so when people say I can't, I'm like, look, like you're a perfect example of creating a business based on the life that you wanted, and you've been doing it for 7 years.
Yeah, and I love it. And what I'll say to everyone who's listening is like, first and foremost, it's possible.
It's possible.
If you can combine being an attorney and law with yoga and Pilates, like you can do anything, just so you know, like newsflash, you can do anything. You can do anything anyways. But also what I just want to say a little bit about that journey is that you have to be fully committed to it. There's a requirement, and it's like the universe will test you and be like, oh, like, why don't you just take this project that requires you to go into court? Or why don't you just do this thing that would not? And then I'm just like, no, 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 no. Like if I can't sign it electronically and take care of it, all of it online, and like the first part of the first 3 months of my business, I was in India living in an ashram. So I'd have what
Wow.
and so I'd have 1 day a week to have Wi-Fi, which is like not recommended. Like don't go that particular way. But what I mean to say is that like A, firstly, it is possible, and B, just have conviction and be committed to it and realize that like maybe not everything immediately is going to reveal itself to you, but through your consistency of intention and focus and making it happen over time, you'll realize it, and it'll be way better than you ever thought it could be.
1,000%. And you're absolutely right. The universe does test you, right? When you ask for more patience, it's going to give you more time to practice the patience it's bestowed upon you. And
Yeah.
so, so this is great. Now, at the same time, however, we can create these amazing, you know, businesses for ourselves and travel the world. And at the same time, it's still really important to protect ourselves. And so, from a business, from what you do with Conscious Counsel, how do you help small business owners, and especially in like the yoga Pilates world, understand that the importance of protection and legal documents?
The 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 entire scope really of what my challenge is, and I'm on a mission, both personally and professionally, to transform the way legal services are provided to heart leading entrepreneurs. So like
Love it.
that's when I get up in the morning, that's what I'm about. That's what I'm committed to. It's so interesting, and I would never think this, and they never teach this to you in law school, but it's like what I've learned is that so many people have no idea how to do things properly, right?
Yeah.
Just like completely. But and I'll just give you an example. I was speaking with a studio owner yesterday who's okay, growing the business. We want to do this, all the things. And I was like, okay, well, firstly, do you have employees or contractors? And they're like, okay, we have some employees, some contractors. And I said, well, do you have an employee agreement? No employee agreement. Do you have an independent contractor agreement? No independent contractor agreement. And it's like, these are people who are renting spaces. They're paying, more than $100,000 a year in rent, and they've got a payroll, and they've got all these clients and all these things. And to me, it's unfathomable. So the question is like, how do I explain to people? I think there's two ways. One is by virtue of storytelling. And like
Yeah.
what we can do is I could tell a story, and you could choose any topic of law that we deal with. And I have like a whole list of things that I've been through with my clients. So I try to tell stories so that people can understand what it's about. And then B, this is another thing that's sort of evolved with my legal practice, is realizing that my intention in supporting clients is to get them to best legal practices and not to get them to apply to law school.
Correct.
You don't care about the difference between a contractor and employee. You don't care about the repercussions of an auto pay membership. You don't care whether or not you have a registered trademark or not. What you care about is, I know everything's protected and I can go get more clients, or I can go on Instagram and build it there, or I can do all the things that I love doing and research more. So I think once you realize that, like, there has to be an element of trust between people to be like, hey, I really understand what I'm talking about, and what you're going through, I've been through with more than 1,000 people or small businesses. So like, this is really what you need. And there's just like an element of trust. It's sort of like my relationship with my accountant.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing. I
Right.
know that he's great. He's reputable. I've worked with him for years. I've never opened a single spreadsheet in my life, and millions of dollars in revenue for my business since I started it. I've never, ever once opened a spreadsheet. And I can promise you, Krista, I'm not going to open a spreadsheet. But when you work with people who understand these things, and you trust them, and you know that they have a proven track record of supporting people, that you can trust them and work with them. So all of that being said, I'll just make it really, really simple. When you run a small boutique fitness studio business, you have a lot of different relationships.
Mhm.
You have a relationship with your landlord. If you have a business partner, you have a relationship with your business partner. If you've got a team, you've got a relationship with your team. If you've got clients, I hope you've got clients, you have a relationship with your client. The thing to understand is, even though it's completely invisible, there are different legal rules that apply to these different relationships. And just by virtue of the fact that you don't know what any of those rules are, it does not mean that those rules do not apply to you.
Correct.
And sometimes there are very, very serious repercussions to the specifics of that relationship and what those rules are, to the point that I have had many clients who did things too late or didn't do things properly from the start and had to close their business and lost all their personal savings, and their parents had to give them money in order to try to save the business, and they weren't able to save the business. And it's just like, there's a lot of really, really difficult stories about heart leading, epic, community building people who want to do well and be the change that they want to see in the universe. So once you understand that there are certain rules that govern the relationships you have in your business, and that these rules are invisible, and that you probably don't understand the repercussions of what these rules of the relationships are, then you should, like, hopefully you would start to think like, oh, like, what do I need in order to be protected? What are the most important things that I need to take care of? And I think like that, if there's one thing that I would just want everyone who's listening to this to walk away with, just appreciate that there are very, very significant penalties and, unfortunately, like, negative possibilities of these relationships that you have if you don't take care of things properly up front. And then I'm sorry, I'm just going to conclude with one
Oh,
last thing.
yeah.
The real, like, and please, everyone who's listening, this, if you take away one major point from everything that I'm saying, law is determined by your legal position, right? So what a legal position means is, something happens or some sort of issue. Your landlord wants to kick you out, your business partner wants to sell their shares, your clients want a refund, someone gets injured using a reformer, hits their head and can no longer look at a screen, whatever it is that happens. The process is always going to be the same. An issue arises and you're going to reach out to a lawyer, and that lawyer's there's one question they're going to ask you every single time. They're going to say, can you please send me a copy of the signed agreement related to this incident or relationship or what happened? Now, when you have a customized specific agreement for this relationship, and it's drafted in your favor, then you have a very strong legal position. And
Mhm.
when you have a strong legal position, someone can threaten you and call you names and tell you how terrible you are and all of that stuff. What matters is, what do I have written down? What's signed between the parties? And that is going to be my ability to respond. And I do it all the time. I'm doing it. I did it earlier today. I'm going to be doing it later today. I respond on behalf of clients based on the signed contracts and agreements that they have. Now, conversely, when you don't have those agreements in place, it is really nasty and it just sucks, because the first step one is the same. Problem arises, lawyer says, hey, can you please send me a copy of the signed agreements? When the response that I get from a client is, oh, we actually never signed something, we meant to sign it. Now you have a much inferior legal position, and someone can call you names and blame you and say that you owe them
Mhm.
tens of thousands of dollars or more. And now, like, I have no flex. I can't be like,
Right.
hey, actually, you're wrong. Instead, I'm like, okay, well, case law says this, and this is what the rule is, and these are what the facts are. And then I'm like grasping at straws to try to come up with an argument. So it's like, I just see the same mistakes over and over and over again. And I try really hard to like let people know, like, hey, the strength of your legal position is going to be the strength of your legal documents. You don't have to go to law school. You don't have to figure all of this out. But if you're running a studio, there are 5 basic agreements that you need, and that will take care of 99.9% of the issues that come up for you.
Yeah. And like you said, you don't have to go to law school, but when you decided to open a business, you basically signed a contract with the business, technically, whether you signed it or not, and you have an obligation to know what you need to, like, you can't go to the judge and be like, well, I didn't know. Like, that's not a good defense. So when you talk about like the top 5 that every business should have, what are those agreements or
Okay,
contracts?
so let's say, and I in the yoga law book, I have this whole thing where like I call them agreements and not contracts, just because
Okay.
we want to make it more heart leading. But
Yeah.
sometimes I do slip and I say the C word. But
Okay.
um,
I love it.
okay,
The C word. Let's have agreements. Yeah.
in the UK, the C word has a different significance, but in our world, anyways, agreements. So the top 5 agreements. So let's say, I'm assuming that let's say you're a Pilates, you're a Pilates studio. Maybe you have a couple of locations. Maybe you don't. Whatever. Okay, the first is going to be the waiver of liability. This is so everyone at law, there's something called a duty of care. If you are facilitating an activity for someone, and they suffer damages, aka get hurt, by virtue of their participation in that activity, you are responsible 100%. That responsibility can be waived by a participant so long as there's a waiver of liability that's signed, but it has to be specific. It has to include all of the equipment that you use. It has to include all the potential injuries that can come up. It includes all the modalities, so like in-person, group, online, pre-recorded, all that sort of stuff. Waiver of liability is a big one. The second one is a privacy policy in terms of service. As a business, you're collecting all of this information from people, personal information. Government has rules about how you have to control or use that information. And that's your privacy policy in terms of service. The third is a media release and a social media disclaimer. Media release is when you have permission to use someone's words or photo or video, or if you're going to be posting them on your website, on your Instagram, if they're giving you recommendations. What's it called when someone says how great the experience was? The words just
Like a review,
yeah, but there's a
testimonial.
testimonial. Yeah, if you have a testimonial, like you need to make sure that you have that. And then the media release is coupled with a social media disclaimer, which basically you connect to all of your different profiles that says like, hey, we might giving you tips and recommendations on strengthening your lower back, or how to properly use a Cadillac or this, that, or whatever it is. But for everything that you do on social media, because if, again, duty of care, if I'm going out there blasting a message to the world and someone acts on that and suffers damages, then there's a responsibility based on the business owner. So we have waiver, we have privacy, we have social media and media release. The fourth would be a studio membership agreement.
Mhm.
These are the rules of someone who is joining your community. Okay, cool. Are you buying a 10-pack? Are you buying a 5-pack? Are you buying an unlimited? How do reservations work? How do cancellations work? And then also what's more and more is coming up in that is like code of conduct and having legal grounds to kick someone out of your studio. And I always have to deal with this and help clients with this, unfortunately. But like sometimes there's someone who just makes everyone feel uncomfortable, or there's someone who is not following the rules, or there's someone who's harassing teachers. Like all of these things have to be dealt with in a studio membership agreement, in addition to payment and and term and all that stuff. And then the fifth agreement would be either a contractor or an employee agreement. So properly classifying your workers. So if they're employees, having an employee handbook. If they're contractors, making sure that you actually are treating them like contractors so you don't run a risk of audit from the IRS or a complaint from the worker. And I think with those 5 documents, if you're a studio owner, you've addressed 99% of the legal issues that could come up against you.
Yeah. So it sounds like 4 of them are customer facing and 1 of them is internal operations that you're suggesting right now.
Yeah, and then there are more things like
Sure.
registering a trademark, super important. And if you have an LLC and you've got an operating agreement with your partner, that needs to
Yep.
be specific to the relationship. Like I can't tell you how many times I've had to do that, but just in a very, very general, basic sense, like those are
Those
the
are the 5.
bases
Yeah.
that need to be covered.
Yeah. And for the most part, people like understand too. People, the operating agreement thing is always, well, no, it's fine. Like we're sisters, we're best friends. No, it's not. It's not a problem until it becomes a problem. And it's just better to have everything in writing. It's just better to have things in writing.
It's better for 2 reasons. One is, and I have to say on the business partner operating agreement side, those are the most difficult and the most expensive issues to resolve. So
Yep.
you can think like, oh, we're starting a business, we're best buddies, everything's going to be great. Awesome. There's so much intellectual property that gets created. There,
I know. I love the thumbs up.
yeah,
I
he
love
always
the thumbs up.
always does that. There's so much money at stake. You have payroll, you have all these things. Like when those problems come up. So the benefits, as an example for that, is that one, when you have a written operating agreement between 2 partners and someone is acting out of integrity or not holding up their end of the agreement, you can just say like, hey, provision 7.3 outlines what our respective responsibilities are. One of yours is teaching on the weekends. You never come in on the weekends to teach anymore. You always get a sub for that class, or how we use corporate funds, whatever it is. But when you can use the agreement as a means to to restore integrity to the relationship, that's super powerful. And then obviously the second benefit is like when it all goes to hell, then it's like the process is dictated by the document and there's no emotion involved. And
Well,
when
there's always emotion involved, but it's still dictated by the document. I mean,
the procedure,
is
the
emotional.
procedure of what's going to happen is like, it's not up to anyone. It's not like, oh, this is how I'm feeling today, so this is what we're doing. It's
No,
like
yeah,
what we agreed.
yeah.
And
I've been
I'm
through a partnership dissolution and I was so thankful that I had an operating agreement.
yeah.
But it was emotional because it's like a divorce. And
It's,
basically the way they work is each party feels like they're getting kicked in the ass a little bit at some point. And I think my attorney was like, listen, do you want to be right or do you want to be done? Because if you want to be right, this could drag on for a long time. And the only people that are going to make money are the attorneys.
yes.
So if you want to be done, I just suggest let's do this. And I was like, but it's not right. And he's like, again, do you want to be right or do you want to be done? This was before my whole therapy life came to be. So I'm like, I was a much different person back then. But I also, I'm very transparent about my story too, that I almost got sued by a staff member for misclassification. And same thing, that almost took my business down. And, you know, luckily that did not happen, but I went through at that time, I went through a huge HR audit with a company that I wanted to do because I was like, not only do I have myself to protect at this point, but my team needs to be protected. Like they come to work every day working amazing. And it's my responsibility as an owner to make sure that I'm doing this correctly. So So how do people get to work with you? Like if people are interested and they're like, holy crap, I really need to figure this stuff out. Like, how could they work with Conscious Counsel?
Yeah, well, we have a website, consciouscounsel.ca, and then also I'm sure you can share my email address, which is
We
Cory
will, as of
Conscious
course.
Counsel
Yep.
and all this stuff. But you just shoot us a note and say, hey, I'd love a quick chat. Can you send me a link to Cory's calendar? I always do free consults with different professionals in whatever field they are, and just chat and hear about what they're up to. And yeah, and for me, I understand. I think the best thing, one of the things that I love most about doing the same thing for a lot of years is like, I don't want to say it gets easier, but you have so much more
Mhm.
experience in doing it that it's like, yeah, that I'm in any conversation, someone can tell me what they're doing, and I already have like in my mind, like, okay, these are all the problems that I've went through before, and this is what you need to be fully protected. So anyone can just reach out if they like. And I just want to add one other point to what you said. Um, it, when people say like, why do I need agreements? I always start with the like, okay, because like, you don't understand the rules and you could get sued and all of this stuff. But like, there is something, the word that always comes to mind for me is like respect. When you
Mhm.
respect your clients, you have a clear agreement. When you respect your team, you have a clear agreement. And it's sort of just like respecting a relationship and sort of sanctifying it to the sense of saying like, hey, let's be really clear with each other of what exactly it is that we're doing. So not even if there's a problem, just so that everyone feels valued and feels
Mhm.
present in the relationship. So yeah,
I
that
think
I
that's a
just
great way to look at it. Employee contracts or even independent contractor contracts are there for me to respect my team. Like I respect you as an individual, and therefore I'm going to have this agreement. You can expect this from me. This is my expectations from you. And as long as we're all, up and up. And I think one thing that probably is a benefit to working with you is that you have a very good handle and understanding of what this world and industry is. So, my very, very first attorney, when he was drawing up my employee contracts, I think it was a 25-page document. And I said, if I give this to my team, they will all quit. Like just the thought of 25 pages, I was like, there's stuff that needs to be done, or a waiver doesn't, you can't have a person coming in to do yoga sign a 25-page waiver. Like you probably understand and can talk to the business owners too about, I understand where you're coming from. And I understand that you think agreements are maybe affect the ethos of your practice. And this is really going to benefit you in the long run to be able to stay open and build community, et cetera, et cetera. I would imagine that that's true working with you.
yeah, we have a rule that it's like if a 7-year-old can't understand it, we won't put it in one of our agreements. So that there's a great scene in The Office where I just remember it. The episode's called The Surplus, but basically like the accountant goes to Michael and he like explains to him that they have a surplus in the budget and they have to spend the money by the end of the day. And then like Michael Scott can't understand what it means. So he's just like he keeps saying he's like pretend you're explaining it to a 7-year-old. And like I saw that and I was like all of the
That's
agreements
it.
should just yeah, just like there's if a 7-year-old can't understand, we won't put it in. And also, it's like it's having hard leading documents as well, and understanding that like when people first sometimes their first point of contact with you as a business are with your legal agreements. So
Mhm.
obviously, we take that seriously too. And yeah, 25 pages. Like, come on,
Crazy.
that's how mining companies will
Yeah,
have like massive agreements. We're
exactly.
studios. People are coming to sweat. They're coming to feel great about themselves. They're coming to make changes in their lives, and we just want it to be simple and easy for them.
Well, thank goodness there's places like you out there in the universe that can help us, heart-led businesses feel more comfortable with things that might not feel as comfortable for us. But again, like you said, as a business owner, we have the responsibility to do what's right for our business, our team, and our clients. And so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. We will link everything, every place you can find Cory, the website, Conscious Counsel. They're on Instagram. He also has his book, the Yoga Law book, which is on, I'm assuming, on Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm assuming everything's on
Yeah,
Amazon.
it
So,
is.
yeah. So, and go ahead and reach out to him. And I would love to have you back for another time. I'm sure we can talk more about all this stuff for lots and lots and lots of time. So, any final words, Cory?
Thank you, everybody, for what you do. Firstly, Krista, thanks for having me. You're awesome. It's like time flies and we just have a blast. And then also, yeah, just to everyone out there who's a small business owner, like celebrate yourself tonight. Find a reason to celebrate something about you operating your business. That's great. And if you love popcorn, eat popcorn. Or if you love Shavasana, chill in Shavasana, whatever it is that it takes. And thanks for being a resource for people to get healthier and feel great about themselves. I'm right now I'm in Florida myself, and it's just like there's a local yoga studio that I've been going to, and it's like it has completely changed my experience here. So sometimes
Love
we
it.
don't see it. We're so in the business, we forget what it's like for like the stranger who comes in for a drop-in class. But I can say myself that it's such an overwhelmingly positive experience. So
Yes.
keep
And we
doing you.
do amazing things in this world, and we need to protect ourselves so that we can continue to serve the community. And so people like Cory are here to do that. So you guys look him up. Maybe you can take a screenshot of you listening to this episode and tag us both on social media. That would be
Yeah.
awesome. Maybe share the episode with someone you know who could really get some value for it. And these are the ways that we are paying it forward for the rest of the next generation. So I thank you all. And until next time, my friends, bye for now.